All right, man.
What's up, man? Beat you to it this time.
Ah,
Beat
man,
you to it, man.
You did it.
Hold
You
on.
did it.
How you doing, man?
I thought I was gonna be looking out a window and looking out at downtown, but looks
Back-
like we've changed the
Back
set.
to the concrete wall, baby.
Here we go back to
I
concrete
feel at
wall.
home again. You know, I don't
Yeah.
feel like I'm visiting anymore.
Yeah, that was definitely, like you called it, the residency,
Yeah, man.
and it's now back to the office. No
Definitely.
guests today.
No guests today, just the two of us. We haven't done a recording in almost a month. I
Yep.
feel like a lot of shit's happened
Yep.
and a lot of good things.
That's right.
Fresh,
That's right.
fresh off of a half marathon, what I would call a victory.
Victory, man.
Whole
Half
team did
marathon.
well.
Yeah, that's right.
How do you feel since the half?
I feel pretty good, man. I think like the best part about it was knowing that we set our vision to something, like a specific time, and we hit exactly that.
Yeah.
And I think that and the amount of time that we spent doing it and the meticulous approach that we had, it was definitely the journey that was, because if you think about it, when we did the race, it just felt like it was boom and it was over.
Yeah.
Whereas the training that led up to it, there was
27 weeks, bro.
27
That's a
weeks.
long fucking time to commit to anything.
Exactly.
Right?
And the thing is the 90-minute half marathon to do 21.1 kilometers in 90 minutes, so an hour and a half, is a coveted designation,
Right.
where you are now considered amongst some of the elite runners in the entire world. And people will train for years and years to hit that.
Yeah.
And there's videos, you could YouTube this for everyone listening, and you'll see all sorts of stuff on it. But you, my friend, in your first ever road half marathon, got within 120 seconds of the 90-minute mark. That is extremely impressive. So great
Thank
job.
You. Thank you. I think all praise goes to God.
Yeah, straight up, man. Straight up, man. The universe.
No, that was definitely a labor of hard work from a team, man. Like Romy taking care of the nutrition, Gavin taking care of the programming, you making sure that all of our kilometers are on point, our speed sessions are too hard, aren't too light. And I mean, we went into this saying, you know, we'll do the first 5K, 7K at 4 minutes and 45 seconds a kilometer, which is pretty fast.
Yeah.
Then we're like, oh, we'll cut it down to like, say, 4:30, 4:35.
The game plan kept changing the closer we got.
The fucking gun goes off. I look at my watch, we're doing 4:10s, 4:9s, and I'm starting to trip myself out.
Yeah.
And it was tough because 1,700 racers, a lot of people don't realize you're going to be bumping into people.
Yeah.
And like, you're not going to really get a groove.
No.
And that initial, you know, that negative self-talk for me came quick. And it's like, oh, fuck, we're going too fast. You're going to burn out. This is like, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then the beauty of playlist, man, the right songs come on. And I start fucking feeling it. Start dancing a bit.
I saw that we were going through one of the neighborhoods, and I think we were turning, and it was going into a downhill.
Yeah.
And your arms started going, and I was looking up, and people were looking at us as they were like clapping. And I saw a few people on the side just staring at you, and they're like, "What the hell is this guy doing?" Your arms were going. And I was like thinking, I got to get in front of him to tell him to slow down, because I had the same concern that you did. So I didn't want to overshoot the target. But then my intuition told me, I said, no, this guy's in a zone right now, and he's like flowing. So I'm just going to keep at his heels. Yeah. And then you just kept picking up the pace.
I just felt like even like I'd hit the hills, and I'm looking at my clock, and the time's still staying consistent. And I thought my watch was malfunctioning because I'm feeling good, right? And it gets to the turnaround point. I take my gel, and then from there, I felt like a fucking possessed child, like just go, right? And started taking on some of our other teammates, like Lucky, and they're notoriously great runners, and I see them, and they're within eye shot of me, and I run up to them, pass them my water bottle, because they're running without a belt, anything, right? Yeah. Give them my electrolytes, take the electrolytes back, reach up to Romy, give him my electrolytes. And then from there, I'm in the last stretch, I'd say last 3 kilometers, and I got a stitch, and I'm starting to feel the pain, and I'm trying to just blow out more air, so try and just like psych myself out that I'm getting rid of it. Yeah. And I run to a lot of sad Punjabi music for some reason, right? I don't know if it's the emotion or what the fuck it is, but it kind of it gets me in the zone, any kind of emotion, happiness, sad, whatever. Yeah. And the song Peed by Diljit Dosanjh comes on, and I start singing. At kilometer 19, I'm singing at the top of my lungs, maintaining a 4:15 pace. Yeah. And people are like, runners are turning around looking at me like, what the fuck is behind me? Why is this guy singing a song? He should be dying, right? And I get to the finish line, and I can't explain it. It's like bliss. Like you see the finish line, it says finish, and you start sprinting.
And you see the people on the sides. You see there's basically a tunnel that's leading you there.
Exactly.
And you just see it, and we're like, oh my God.
Made eye contact with my wife.
And then
I
you
was
give
like,
it every
single thing, man.
Yeah.
And you finish, and as soon as I finished, they told me to put my mask on, which I thought was a little bit fucking ridiculous because I'm fucking dying. I can't breathe. I'm literally holding my guts in place so I don't fucking throw them up.
Yeah.
And they're like,
you got up to a 187 or 185 heart
Yeah.
rate. So you hit your max heart rate in that race. So
Yeah.
did I. And for a lot of people, I don't think they've ever gotten to that level of an exercise, but it is the worst thing ever. But according to you, it's like a warm hug.
Oh, I love it. It's I call
You
it
are so
I call it a
deranged.
warm hug of pain. And I don't know if it's just I'm sick and sadistic or whatever the fuck it is, but that pain is, it used to be familiar. It's not familiar anymore. It just feels right.
Yeah.
And I feel complete with it,
Yeah.
which is not a good thing, but I think I'm channeling it in the right way so I can use it the way I want to.
Yeah.
But I'm super happy with the performance. I can't wait to start our prep for our full marathon.
Yeah.
Hopefully qualify for Boston next year.
And that's the other crazy thing as well, is if you after you cross that line, you're like, wow, that was awesome. But then you realize that that was just half the distance for the full marathon.
Yeah.
That you ran an hour and a half or whatever, and that was just half. That was
Yeah.
half the mark, and
Yeah.
you got to go another 21.1 kilometers. So that's going to be a whole nother challenge on its own.
Yeah, but I also, one thing that I also, not to cut you off, but I learned something really interesting. I learned to do something. I learned to celebrate a good performance, because I notoriously beat myself up. I could have
That
done
was a
this. I could have done
spectacular
that.
performance.
Yeah, and I was like, you know what? Like, I didn't know how to act right after, and I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, you did well, but what do I do when I've done well?
Because like, you never grew up playing sports.
And the sports that I did, like, I mean, it was all like fucking participation medals.
Yeah.
And like,
it wasn't like a big thing.
No.
Other than flag football, that was like a big.
exactly. And I think that was the last time I felt it. But even then, I was hard on myself because I felt like I could have done more. I always felt like I could have done more. With this race, I was like, I gave it my fucking all, and I got the result I wanted. How do I celebrate this? And even my wife was like, Ruby was like, she's waiting. She's like, I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for you to be critical of yourself. And she's like, you're not being.
I remember
like,
she
"This is
said that
weird."
to me as well, because like
Yeah.
the first thing that came out of my mouth after, like I was the same thing. I just started getting critical
Yeah.
as well. I was all in my head. I was like, oh no, because with me when I was coming down that stretch, I didn't want the clock to hit 134 because I was in 133, and I'm like, just give it your all and get it. And on my watch, I crossed at 33:58,
Oh shit.
and on my gender placing, it said 33:58. So I thought, yeah, that was a success. I sprinted hard enough to break that, but the final time they gave me was 134, and so it was just like it's a real mind game. This whole thing, because you're always wondering that moment when I felt like I slowed down. Could I have gone a little bit faster? That time when I went up the hill, did I really give it my all? And that's the thing. But to be in a place where you're at, where you said that you absolutely felt like you gave it your all, and you got the the goal, and you hit the final mark that you wanted to, that's absolutely beautiful. And another thing about your race, I just remembered. So in marathons and in half marathons, there's things called a reverse split. So what that is you take the race and you cut it in half. If we take your race and we cut it in half, you ran the second half of the race faster than you ran the first half of the race. Now, world-class athletes and things like that, like you'll even hear the announcer talking sometimes when they're commentating on a race, and they'll be like losing it. Oh, looks like they're going for a reverse split now, and it's just unheard of, because for the human body to be riding that high and then now you go even faster at half mark is so much harder. So that was super impressive. When I learned that and I saw that, I was like, man, that was crazy. But how did you get here? And the other thing is I remember I had to drag you into running. Like you absolutely hated running. And I remember one time we were running in the trail and we finished a kilometer at 4 minutes and 50 seconds a kilometer. At the very end, I looked at you in the eye and I said, remember this day. You're going to run 4 minutes and 50 seconds a kilometer for a full 21.1. At this point, you did 1 or 2 and you couldn't breathe.
Yeah, I was dying.
And you looked at me, you're like, you're insane. There's absolutely no way.
We were at the watershed.
Yeah, we were you're at the watershed at the bottom trail there.
Yeah.
And now look how far you've come. What are some of the things that you've learned? What are some tips that you could have for others? And then after that, we'll get into our general views that we had on running and Fit Nation and that kind of stuff.
I think the running is, everyone's familiar with the slight edge. Like, you do one small habit every single day and it accumulates to a bigger success and an eventual goal. You put a penny in a piggy bank and eventually you'll have $100. That's essentially what slight edge is. So I feel like running is the greatest example of the slight edge, where just start fucking doing it. Whether you're walking, jogging, whatever it is, get out there, do it off of time. Just start off with 30 minutes. For me, doing a 5K was the hardest shit in the fucking world, right? Because it's easy to, not easy, but you're squatting, you're doing 5 reps. Even if you're doing 10 reps of squatting, you get to stop and take a break. When you're running, it's fucking continuous.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop, and it feels like it's never going to end.
Yep.
But what I started to initially, and almost right off the bat, I started falling in love with the feeling of finishing. So that if I work backwards from that feeling and I start that at kilometer 1 and 2, I can almost taste it already. And I know it's coming. And I know the reward for it. So if I just keep going one step after the other, I'm going to make that, I'm going to be able to taste that. So the other thing that I realized is that I started feeling like I'm going to die. My heart's pounding out of my chest. My legs feel like they're going to stop. And then, again, this is where the sick fuck inside of me actually helps. Where it's like, let's see what happens. You're going to die? Let's see. Let's see if you're going to die. And I've come to realize that the human body is one of the most wonderful phenomenons in this world, in a sense where it is so fucking resilient. It adapts to almost any type of output that you can give it. I'm not saying go and bench 500 pounds and expect to live to tell about it, but I'm saying find reasonable risks to take with your body and see what the fuck it's made out of. Because I believe if we have this vehicle, why not see what it can do to its full fucking extent? It's part of my personal mission in terms of what we do every day.
Yes.
So when it came to distance running, that serves me really fucking well. Because I do want to push this fucking vehicle that I have as hard and as far as I can and see, will I die? I've yet to die. Mm-hmm. I've only run further. I've only run faster. And my body is only getting healthier.
Right.
It's funny how that works, where you break down and almost kill yourself to feel alive. Mm-hmm. And like for me, when I first started initially feeling the pain, as much as it was like, oh, fuck, like I don't like this, I loved it. Because it gave me a sense of like, you're doing something that's so much fucking bigger than you that it might kill you. Mm. And when I see shit like that, I go towards it. I fucking run towards it. Right. Like that, I want that warm hug of pain all the fucking time if I can. That's why I believe I'd make a great drug addict if I did hard drugs. Because I just I fucking love that shit. Yeah. Right?
Wow, that's absolutely insane. As an organization, how did we feel about running when we first? So we opened up in 2014. We opened the doors here, but as an organization, I think 2012, 2011 was when we started, and we started training people. We would have regular clients. Did we ever run with them? Did we ever do anything of that?
We never advocated running at all. We'd actually make fun of long distance runners where we'd say they don't have enough muscle mass. They're probably not strong enough. And anytime we'd see runners running down the street, we'd actually point and laugh at them. And like, look at these fucking losers when you could be squatting right now. Because we were brainwashed.
Yeah, we'd be at a light and be someone's time be like, oh, look at that guy. He's missing out on his squats because he's out here running right now, right?
Yeah.
And that's all we ever cared about. But boy, were we wrong.
So wrong. But I think what we did is we brought the strength aspect to running, which has served both of us very, very well.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
Because that's one of the biggest things that I've noticed through all my research and everything is a lot of runners, majority of runners are not as strong as they can be. And they shy away from barbell training and they shy away from the weights, thinking it's going to slow them down. Mm-hmm. But what it actually does is it speeds you up. A lot of the research studies that I saw and have read have shown that weight-trained individuals, when they run, their running economy is better. Mm-hmm. So what exactly is running economy? We'll give the example of you and I. I had an average heart rate of 170, so did you. Yep. I had a max of 185, so did you. My body weight's roughly the same as yours. We're about 1 year off. Yeah. We trained together, and when we were training, our heart rates were usually within 1 or 2 beats.
We're as close as identical for an experiment that you can get.
That you could probably get. And so in that race, I was at 170, you're at 170, so our engine is pumped right to that level. And I was running at 4 minutes and 28 seconds, I believe, a kilometer, 4:27, and you were running at 4:20 or 4:21, whatever it was. But anyways, it was about an 8 second or 7 seconds a kilometer differential between the two of us. And I would accredit it to the fact that you are avidly weight training as well, amongst a lot of other things. But I feel like that one variable, because I started to back away from that a little bit, kind of getting away from the powerlifting and so forth. But I feel like I've backed off too much.
But also on paper, you were doing almost 10 to 15 kilometers a week more than I was.
Yeah.
Right. So if you would think as a runner, you're running more kilometers
Yeah.
a week. Your run should be a lot better than mine.
And that's the thing. When it comes to running, these are all small pieces, and it's not that one is bigger than the other. So weekly mileage, it's just one of the things.
Exactly.
And people would think like that. Initially, a lot of people think, well, if I run 60, he runs 40, I'm going to beat him, right? But not necessarily. Some bodies can handle more mileage. Some need a little less. Some need more weight training and so forth. But before you got into running, before we opened this organization, what was the teenager Ben doing for health and fitness?
Oh, that's crazy.
And
so the teenager Ben, I got a gym member I've mentioned many times, like when I was really young, right? And all of my information of how to train, what kind of protein to take, what supplements to take was all from gym bros. So everybody knows the gym bro. He's the guy that's fucking super jacked in the gym and usually has like a fucking crew of guys around him. And I would always go up to these guys and ask them random questions, and I'd ask them, oh, so what should I be doing for my training? What should I be doing? Can I just work out with you and whatever? So one of the guys I got to know really well, got to know me pretty well as well, and we're talking, and I was like, yeah, man, I just don't know. I'm not putting on mass. I'm like, I think 17 at the time.
this is after your parents had separated?
Oh, yeah.
So you didn't have that
like,
prominent male figure in your life, and so you're at the gyms, you're trying to build your masculinity.
Yeah, my mom's way of making sure that I didn't fuck up my life was drop me off at the gym for 4 hours, not realizing that everyone she wants to protect me from is literally
they're all in there.
They're all in there,
and
right?
you're running after them, being like, you know,
so
give me a father.
So
figure.
I'm asking this guy, I'm like, yeah, you know, he's gotten to know me. I was like, yeah, you know, I don't know what protein to take. I'm trying to get my bench numbers up. I'm trying to squat more, stuff like that. And he did one of these. He did look this way, and he looked a little bit this way. He's like, you just got to get on the needle, man. And I'm like, fucking 17-year-old me. I'm like, what the fuck does that even mean? And he's like, bro, you need to start taking steroids. Whoa. And I was like, at first, I was like, oh, shit, like, steroids is so taboo. Like, yo, fuck that shit. And I was like, told him, I was like, you know what, I'm not down. He's like, listen.
What did you know about steroids at that point?
All I knew was just bodybuilders took them. I just knew that they get you super big, but they shrink your balls. Yeah. And your hair starts to fall out.
And you get acne.
And you get acne, right? And so I didn't really like all of that type of stuff. I loved my balls at the time. Yeah. So I was like, I'm not doing anything.
As does any teenage boy.
I'm not letting anything happen to that.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know, we'll keep it clean, right? So the guy's like, he fucked me up with one thing. And this is why I believe the real gateway drug is steroids. It's not weed. It's fucking cranks. This is my analogy behind that, or what my experience behind that. So he's like, if you're scared of needles, don't take the needles. He's like, I would recommend start off with something light. You know, have you ever heard of M1Ts? Have you ever heard of Anavar? And I was like, nope. He's like, okay, this is what you do. You go to XYZ store. And you go to the front and you make sure there's no one in the store, right? No one else, just you and the cashier, and you ask them for M1Ts. And at first, he's gonna look at you kind of funny, but then you're gonna say, "No, I know they're under the counter. Can I just get a 80 cap of M1Ts?"
M1Ts.
And so I go to this store and I go and ask the guy, and the guy's like, he's one of those guys that's super jacked, but his eyes are like this.
Yeah.
Right. So you're like,
his face is like beet red. His face is like beet red.
And I was so fucking nervous. So I remember I first sat down, opened up a magazine. I was like, yeah, I'll get a protein shake. Order a protein shake. And I was like, okay, man, this is why I'm really here. Right? I was like, I need some M1Ts, and I know they're right there. Can you hook a brother up? And the guy's like, yeah, man, no problem. He's like, how old are you? I was like, I'm 19, 17 at the time. And he's like, okay, didn't check anything, gave me, he's like, I made sure I paid cash, got out, took M1Ts. And M1Ts.
So I'm gonna stop you there right there just for the listeners. So M1Ts, back in the 2000s, there were these products that hit the market. They were called pro hormones. So the way that these products were legally sold in the United States, but they weren't legal in Canada. And what they were was it was a compound in the pill, which is a pro hormone. But once it made it into your body metabolized it and turned it into testosterone. So it was essentially steroids. So then we had Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa, and all these other people. When they got caught, they said, oh, we just took M1Ts and 1AD and so forth. So technically they were saying they were legal. But back in Surrey during these times, they were being sold under the counter. Mm-hmm. Continue.
So, yeah, I did a couple of rounds of M1Ts, saw some really good like strength gains. I'm not going to lie. Really great strength gains. And mind you, I'm 17 at the time. the amount of testosterone I have pumping through my system already is like I'm already on crank now, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if I could probably attribute it to that it was just naturally I was going to get those gains. But I got some good gains, and I was like, you know what? And I started feeling like, again, that same guy that wants to push it to the fucking limit. I'm like, what's the next level?
Because M1T was like, it's legal in the States, but it's illegal here. So there's kind of a little bit of gray area. So you kind of touched it.
I'm in now.
You dipped your foot,
I've become acquainted with it.
Dipped your foot in the water. You're like, hey, this is not bad.
So I jump right in, and the next thing I got into was Anavar because I was a pussy. I was like, I'm gonna take a bunch of fucking orals, and I'm not gonna worry about injecting myself.
Right.
And so between, I would say about the better part of my 18th year, I was probably taking some Anavar, probably did about 3-4 months out of the year. And then I turned 19, and now I'm ready for the hard stuff, baby. Right now I'm like, okay, let's get real with this, right? So again, I go to the nearest gym bro, right? And I'm like, okay, so what should I do next? And one of our other friends, he's a nerd when it comes to this stuff. So we started looking into a bunch of stuff, and I picked the cycle I wanted to do, right? My cycle was test sip, and I front loaded it with D-balls. And if you want to let's let the nerd take it away. What is front loading? What is...
So basically, doing a combination of injectables with orals, what happens is, so you mentioned test sip. With that steroid, it has a thing on it called an ester. So it's attached to the testosterone, and it won't release for 4 weeks. So you would take that first injection, but you're not going to feel anything for 4 weeks. The following week, you take another one, and the third week, and you keep taking them. Yeah. But what happens is the first week's ester detaches on week 4. Yeah. So that's when that comes out. Then in week 5, the second one, and then it keeps dropping. Yeah. So then what do you do for the first 4 weeks when there's not going to be any release? Well, you would take the D-balls, and that would instantly...
Which is another oral.
Is an oral. And you, I think, would have done that for 4 weeks in the beginning. And then you stop doing it because the other stuff starts kicking in.
By the time my first injection kicked in. So I start taking the D-balls, and...
Extremely popular in Surrey, by the way.
Yeah, very, very, very popular drug amongst young people. It's easy to take. The thing people don't realize about orals is they're extremely fucking toxic. And they'll sell you on the myth.
Bypass the liver twice, and then it's really bad for the liver.
And, take your milk thistle, repair your liver. Yeah, but what about all the other fucking damage it's going to do to you, right? I've heard all those
And these guys on the weekend, what are they doing?
Exactly. You can't just drink on crank. Your liver's already taken a beating, right? So I started taking D-balls, and immediately I noticed that I'm starting to get bloated, right? My strength gains have gone through the fucking roof. And I've gotten way stronger. I think I was like 18, 19. And I'm benching 3 plates. Like I'm RDLing 3 or rack pulling 3 plates. I'm thinking I'm the fucking man. This is amazing. And my test sip hasn't even kicked in yet.
Wow.
But I noticed almost, I think it was probably 2.5 weeks into D-balls, I was gaining a lot of body fat because you got to remember, I was eating like a fucking teenager still. I was eating KFC almost twice a day. I was working a retail job. And so I was in a food court all the fucking time. And I started to notice gyno almost immediately, like bitch tits, almost right away. And I started getting fat because I was eating like shit too, right? But strength gains were going through the roof. I was getting fucking super jacked. And people were coming up to me in the gym that have known me for a few years now, like, holy shit, you look fucking great. My ego was loving it. I was on a constant high. Like I could train for 4 hours. I could train 3 times a day and I would not get sore. I'd feel like I'm making nothing but gains. And it was fucking amazing.
Yeah.
So I do all of that, and now my test sip starts to kick in. And once my test sip kicks in, I'm off the D-balls. I start getting these fucking rages where I would lose my shit on almost fucking everything. And by then, I started, I'm an idiot. I started doing more research on the negative side effects as my first injection's kicking in. And mind you, I'm getting injected in my friend's bedroom while his mom's at home. Like, it's super weird. Like, he hit a nerve a few times in my ass, and I'm limping for a week. Like, it's just shit was not fun. No. There's nothing glorious about this whole process. So whatever, the first thing, and I'm getting these rages, so I start doing all this research, and I heard this thing about air bubbles, where if you don't properly inject and you get an air bubble in your injection, that air bubble is going to hit your bloodstream, and if it reaches your heart, it can kill you. Now, I read somewhere that could take 15 minutes, that could take 4 years. You don't know, 4 months. You don't know how long it's going to take. I still, to this day, don't even know if it's a myth or not, or if it's a reality. That shit had me up for fucking days, thinking like, fuck, did he know what he was doing? Like, fuck, he hit a nerve that time. Was that an air bubble?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell, right? Meanwhile, I'm hitting all my training. Everything's going good. But my gyno's getting bigger and bigger. And it was just like, it was now starting to get concerning. But I felt like a fucking god.
Right.
I felt like I couldn't be stopped on this stuff. So I run through that cycle, and then I ran out, and I needed to go pick up some more. And so this is the avatar of the guy that I picked the stuff up of. So I go to the guy's place, and he's outside. He's hacking a butt, and he's smoking a cigarette. And he's like, yeah, just head on inside. I'll be right in behind you, right? He finishes his cigarette. He goes inside, and he starts making himself a kale smoothie after smoking a fucking cigarette. And he's like, hold on, I'm just going to get a kale smoothie in real quick before I fucking get you your stuff. He's making this kale smoothie, talking about this rager of a weekend he had, getting hammered, partying, stuff like that. And then he passes me the vials, and I got out of there as quick as possible. But this is the type of, I'm not getting it from a scientist. I'm not getting it from a doctor. It's most likely getting made in someone's bathtub.
Yeah.
And so whatever, I get the extra stuff. I just do the last bit of my cycle, and now... my rages are going pretty hard. Like, I am the worst version of myself at this point. I look great. I fucking am a monster. I don't know how Ruby got through it during this age with me. Anyway, so the crank starts to wear off now. It's about 4 weeks after, and my libido has gone to zero. Right? Like, I'm having mechanical issues where I shouldn't have mechanical issues.
Major plumbing problems.
My gains have pretty much all gone to shit. I get that.
How's your mood?
That's my post-cycle depression.
Oh, yeah.
I just go into the shit. I'm not working out anymore. My gyno got the best of me, and now it's like really bad.
That's noticeable.
My performance has all gone to shit in all aspects. I've got no drive now. And there was no like initial glory that I had. Like, I even got excited when I was explaining it. But that feeling I got afterwards, fuck, it made me feel like this was the worst decision I've ever made in my life.
Wow.
Like, I could have done, it would have taken me 5 extra years to get to where I got to. It would have been worth it.
Well, I think I saw you get into better condition later on.
Way later on. That's I 100% agree with you.
And you did it naturally, but you were training like an animal.
With proper programming, proper nutrition, proper recovery, I'm able to do, like, my biggest and heaviest lifts, like my 445 deadlift was completely clean. I did it at 25, 26. Yeah. That was, 5 years after my big cycle. Yeah. And so none of those gains were attributed to that. My 315 for 9 sets of 5 on squat. Yeah. That was done clean. My bench press at 305, 310 paused was all clean. Yeah. So I was able to make better gains with proper programming and consistency than I was on the fucking cycle of your dreams. Right. And because I was training like an idiot, I was eating like shit. I had no post-cycle therapy. I had no real guidance into what I was doing. And there was no doctor I had no involved. Fucking business doing it. If I went to a doctor, he'd probably slap me in my face. You're 17. You're already on steroids. Yeah. If there's anyone out there that's 17, 18, 19, or 20 that's fucking wanting to take steroids, you're already on steroids. Yeah. Trust me. Go get your testosterone levels checked and compare them to your dad's testosterone. They are fucking way off. You're going to have way more testosterone. Right. So don't get into this whole, like, I need my results right now. I'm training so hard and I'm going to use it for recovery. I told myself all that shit. Yeah. And it was all baloney. It was garbage. Yeah. I was telling myself because I'd already convinced myself I was going to do it.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. The thing is we realize that now in our 30s, but we read the stuff that said, hey, if you're thinking about doing it, you probably shouldn't at this age because, naturally you're already pumping so much. Yep. You're just going to mess things up for later on. And you can probably still get some really decent, solid gains naturally. Yeah. And you wouldn't need to think of that. Is there a spot or a place for this stuff? Maybe. It could be argued that there is a spot for it in hormone replacement therapy for men when they're older. It could be argued that, if the sport of bodybuilding feels that it's and let's talk about that. Everybody needs to know that professional bodybuilders actually use less doses and less steroids than your recreational gym goer. Exactly. Guys at like the gyms out here are probably using 2 times or 3 times as much of a dose than these bodybuilders are. So with the bodybuilders, they're training like crazy. Their diets are so clean, and they've been doing it for like 15 years of that style of training. And they're genetic freaks. And then so what that does is, I think Dorian Yates talked about his cycle, and it was like 250 milligrams of testosterone.
Yeah.
Now, from what I understand, what I've read, that's not considered too much.
No.
I think a lot of people are doing somewhere between 500 to 1,000.
I know a few guys that were doing 1,000 when I was on my side.
A week, right? Exactly. And Dorian Yates was doing 250, but you see the guy's condition. You see what he looked like. It was insane.
Yeah.
But for recreational users, especially with younger individuals, I think what happens is we get caught in the trap of things. You're actually a male that needs guidance, but we're seeking it from the wrong people.
And that's the thing. We guys that work out do it for other guys. When I was taking crank, I wasn't doing it to get all the girls and like look good for the girls. I was doing it so that I get noticed in the gym and guys are like, "Yo, man, you look fucking great."
Yeah, when a guy that
did more for me than a girl that was like, "Oh, wow, you look good."
Yeah, I agree.
That's great, honey. What do you squat?
There was that guy who had that A&E special of the guy whose arms exploded, Greg
Valentino.
Valentino. He was taking steroids, and I believe he was taking synthol in his arms and stuff. And he told the story about how he knew that the girls thought he looked gross, but he liked that.
Yeah.
He was more, he's like, when I was in a bar, if there was a hot chick over there, I didn't care if she came over and talked to me. I cared if her boyfriend would walk over and be like, "Holy shit, man, look at your arms," and so forth. But yeah, it's basically just this jungle, and you're looking for direction, and then you're trying to produce dominance and that kind of stuff. And I think we need more individuals, leaders, mentors, individuals that can kind of if a younger individual is thinking about doing steroids, you should be able to sit down and talk to someone who has experience in it, or who knows something about it, and have an open discussion about it. And I know we had, like, I really feel that this topic, or talking about this, is really important, because I think the use was slowly increasing in our years when we were growing up, but I feel like it's gone up now. And I feel because everything has kind of gone up right now, social media. So like with us, we saw before and afters when we bought Flex magazine and Muscular Development magazine, and we thought that guy actually took hydroxycut in order to look like that, but we didn't know that he was on crank. However, now you don't have to go get a magazine, dude. You just open up your phone; it's right there. People are throwing before
and you're competing against Photoshop. Right?
Exactly.
You're competing against, like, the guy in the picture doesn't look like the guy in the picture, right?
No.
Like and even bodybuilders at their peak physique look like that for 48 hours. 48 hours up until they have to get on stage, and then after that, they have to come down. Yeah. Otherwise, and so for the recreational gym goer, they think that they can look like this year round. And they're not realistic with what they want. It's gotten to the point where it's so grotesque. Your goals and what you're comparing yourself to is so grotesque that you think you can reach there with more chemicals and supplements rather than readjusting what it is that you want. When I stopped caring as much as how I look and what I look like, I started looking better because the pressure was off. Now it's just like, have fun with this stuff, because you will start hating working out. Like, I had to rebuild my relationship with the weight room after all of my abuse of steroids, because when I went there, it reminded me of that time. It reminded me of all that pressure I put on myself. That young Ben was just trying to look good in a t-shirt. He was just trying to fill a t-shirt in so I didn't look pinner.
Right.
And trying to fill up that insecurity that I had in myself of just not being good enough for myself.
Right.
If I repair that, I've reached my dream body. If I just repair that inner boy in me, I've achieved my fitness goals. And now I can do fitness for fun. I can do fitness for competition. That's why I gravitate to running so much, because it's something new for me that I found in my adulthood. It's something competitive that I'm not running to look good anymore. Running is not a workout that I do to look good. Running is something that I do for performance.
And your mental health.
And my mental health. And that's just a side effect for me. That's my looking good because of running. That's my results of running, is good mental health. And I find now that I've done that I can actually thoroughly enjoy running up until it's like the last week of prep before a fucking half marathon, because then I hate running. But right up until then, I love every bit of the process. And now, actually, first week back, so race was this Sunday. First week back now, I've started, I rewarded myself with being able to bench press again, because I took a long time off of proper weight training. And I'm going to repair that again, where it's like, now it's not about hitting, a 400-pound bench press. Now it's like, let's get back into it. Let's start enjoying it again.
Yeah.
And realize that you're going to do this forever.
Yeah.
You're going to work out till the day I die. I'm going to be working out. So why am I trying to do all of it right now?
Right now, exactly. I think the biggest thing I would think and ask for someone that is considering it, or, you know, thinking, oh, maybe I want to hop on a site. Why? What do you, what are
Not
you
to
doing?
tell you what to do
No,
or what
but
not
just-
to do. We're
just
going to tell
ask-
you from our experience.
Just ask
right?
yourself why, man.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is like, are we talking about professional athletes that are putting food on their table, and this is the means of making a living and so forth? And it's like, okay, you know, the doctors are saying, or someone's saying, or it's being done under the table, whatever the case is, not justifying it, but saying that the predicament that some of those individuals are under are very different than the predicaments that we're under. We work out for health, right? Health and fitness and so forth. But reaching for that, I feel like it's not necessary.
No.
You're going to create more harm and then doing any good. And then also those that are looking up to you, or those that are around you and so forth, once you start to see that, hey, everybody's just on it, then you're going to want to promote that sort of environment.
And when everybody's, you realize the older you get, the more you realize how many people are actually doing this stuff. You start that sometimes that validates it for you.
Yeah, you're like, well, everybody's
on
doing
it. Why not? Why don't I just go on it? Well, you know, like everybody is, if everyone's doing something wrong and you don't know what level people are doing it at, some people can afford to have a doctor monitor them and that type of stuff. And then also, you know, everybody's also doing cocaine. You don't just start doing fucking blow all the time, right? So you got to be very careful with what you're choosing. Just because the herd is headed one way doesn't mean that you can't be the purple cow that goes the other way, right? So I think you got to just, again, like what you said, like you just got to go search inside of yourself why. And if it is to look good, why is that so important to you? Right. And I'd want to know. And reach out to me, man. I've done it all under the sun.
Yeah,
like,
I was just gonna say that for any of the young listeners that are listening.
And even if you want to be anonymous, email me. My email's out there. Find me on social media. DM me if you want. We can set up a coffee. We could just talk over the phone or just go through email. I'd love to just kind of pick your brain and ask you the questions that people probably aren't asking you right now. And so, yeah, hit me up.
And the other thing is when, like, I grew up in running, or I was in track and field, but it's so funny. You would choose your events based off of the masculinity. So it was like, I knew I was in track and field. It wasn't a very masculine sport, but the 100 meter and the 200 meter, that's masculine, right? Yeah. So it's like, I want to do that. And then after that, when my coach was like, I don't want to coach anymore, I lost the love for the sport because I went into weight training because that made you masculine and so forth. So I feel like when you become an adult, you realize that all that stuff was a farce, right? You created those limitations on yourself. And I think that health and fitness is about finding things that you thoroughly enjoy, but that present a certain level of challenge. Yeah. And we all have to know that we were in this for a very long time. Yeah. And I feel like we have that perspective now, but when we were 17, 18, 19, 20, whatever, we wanted to just be jacked, and that was it. And all we saw was like a 5-year window, and it was always like, oh, when am I going to be able to deadlift 405? When am I going to be able to do this? At the end of the day, when I look back at it, was I really doing it for the sport reasons or for health reasons? No, I wasn't. I think I had some voids inside me which were causing me to act a certain way and so forth, which could be the case for a lot of individuals.
And it brings, I'm thinking back at like some of the horror stories, it brings out the worst in you. Like, I remember my mom ended up finding one of my vials. This is fucked. I really hope my mom doesn't listen to this, because then it's going to fucking validate the fact that she was right. So when I was living at home with my mom, I must have gotten lazy. I left one of my vials out on my side table. And my mom, I went up, and it was Sunday, so it was time to get injected. So I had to pick up the vial, take it to the homie's house to get injected, because I was too pussy to inject myself. And I can't find it. I'm rummaging through everything. And then when you're frustrated on crank, this is when the rage starts. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm getting sweating, start talking about this. So I'm like rummaging through all my stuff. I'm starting to sweat. And like the rage starts in the back of your head. And it starts here, and it kind of like, it like takes you over. It's kind of like a demon or a grim reaper, like just hovering over you. And I can feel it coming in. The thing about a roid rage, a lot of people don't say, it feels so fucking good. because you are no longer consciously thinking. You are just reacting to fucking everything. And I'm literally starting to talk like this, and my mom can hear me, right, upstairs. And my mom's a fucking gangster. So I come downstairs, I start looking at other places, and I go to her room, and she left it on her mirror where I could see it. She left it in front of everyone, and you could just see it right there. And I'm fucking about to lose my shit. I'm fucking screaming. I'm throwing shit around. I grab the vial. I'm like, Mom, what the fuck are you doing? This is my friend's diabetes medication and he needs it. I need to go drop it off to him right now. I'm lying straight to my mom's face. I've never been more low before in my life. Like, this is embarrassing.
Yeah.
Grab that. I'm fucking still in the middle of my rage. I rip it as fast as I can for no reason to the homie's house. And now it's dark, okay? So it's dark out, and I can't just go into his house for 10 minutes and fucking leave. And so I get to his house. He's like, meet me at the side of my house. And it's starting to rain a little bit. And I get up, and it's like a white, like a side floodlight, and that's on. And he looks at me. He's like, dude, why the fuck are you sweating? He's like, you run here? I was like, no, man, I just need to get this fucking done, and I need to leave. And he's like, my dad's upstairs. He's walking around. I was like, just fucking hit me right here. I was like, here's the needle. Gives me the needle. I pull my pants down just to the side. And on the side of his house, while it's raining, in front of a floodlight, he finds the spot, hits me, hits a fucking nerve, injects me, pulls it. When he pulls it out, a bunch of blood splatters out. And immediately I'm like, fuck. So when my rage is now going on an hour and a half, I've probably burnt 1,500 calories just in my rage.
Oh, God.
As soon as he hit the nerve and I fucking screamed, I came back down because now I got distracted, right? And as I'm leaving, I throw the vial out. I think it was one of my last injections. And I remember just reflecting on myself, thinking like, what are you doing with your life? You just lied to your mom. You literally have a needle that you just got crank put into you with.
Yeah.
And you're driving back home now so you can rest and get up and go to the gym in the morning.
Yeah.
I remember that was like the beginning of the end for me, where I was just like, okay, you have now touched rock bottom. Okay? Like, you really need to fucking decide what you want to do. And it still took me a few months after that to kind of actually fully accept that. Now, and me accepting was falling off the wagon. Fucking ice cream and calorie surplus, not really working out. And then on top of that, toolbox stops working. Depression starts to kick in. And so that void that was temporarily filled with the steroids sucked so much more out of me that I was in a worse place than when I started. I was better off with the insecurity.
Yeah.
Now I got the depression. Yeah. Toolbox is not working, so frustration's kicking in. Yeah. All this stuff, and you know, thank the universe that everything ended up working out. I was forthcoming with a doctor. He kind of helped me get everything in order. I ended up losing a lot of body fat to get rid of my gyno. And sometimes I still feel like if I gain a little bit of weight, it does kind of come back. But luckily, I didn't need to get surgery for it or anything like that. A lot of guys will have to get surgery. A lot could have gone wrong. A lot did go wrong. Yeah. I have a lot of regrets. Yeah. A lot could have been worse. Yeah. And I'm just very lucky that I didn't let myself get even lower, because I could have just jumped on a cycle right away and not come off. We all know those guys that never come off. Yeah. And I could have had an enlarged heart. I could have moved on to GH. I could have had a heart attack. I could have. Yeah, there's a guy, Rich Piana. He died. Like so many bodybuilders and guys would die of heart attacks and so forth. Because when you start at a certain age, you just keep going and it never ends. Yeah. And the other thing that I would like to mention is hormones are very complicated things. And these are the last things in your body that you want to be messing around with. Like, you don't want to be messing around with the hypothalamus pituitary axis that they call it in science. Like, this stuff is really, really delicate, especially when you're growing up and going through things like puberty and so forth. And testosterone is really funny. Some people will say the roid rage is a myth. Some people will say no, it exists. And some people just say testosterone is just very complex. And in some individuals, if they're harboring resentment, if they're harboring hate, or if they're harboring anger and so forth, it's going to project that like no tomorrow. And that's why we see guys they generally are guys that are a little hot-headed. Mm-hmm. They take the crank. Mm-hmm. They are super hot-headed. It's not necessarily going to take someone who's like, it's quiet and it's going to turn them into a crazy freak or something like that. I had issues I was dealing with. That's what it is. I feel like it projects. Like, I remember fucking punching through fences, like hitting, like just being angry. Like,
Yeah.
it's so fucked. And I don't really get angry like that anymore.
No.
I either got it all out of my system or I've kind of therapized my way out of
Yeah.
it. But
It's nice for you to be able to talk about this openly.
it took a lot to, man.
Especially behind a camera.
I wasn't
so
ready
that-
to fucking talk about
Yeah.
any of that, but I understand, and I think a big part of what we do is knowing that if we have these uncomfortable conversations now, it can save a kid from a uncomfortable life later on. And I'm not saying that I know the way and I got everything right. I'm telling you, these are the things I got wrong, and you don't have to make the same mistakes as I did. Or you can make these same mistakes, take on those risks, but just know what took me to my rock bottom.
Right.
And don't flirt with it too much, man. This shit is as invincible as we think we are. We're not when it comes to exogenous things that we put into our body.
I agree,
And
man.
we need to be very careful. When you're pushing yourself in fitness and all that stuff, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But anything exogenous or any kind of like, you're not a fucking science experiment, right?
Yeah.
And especially when you're at young developmental ages, that shit is just, it doesn't sit right with me. And I wish I could go back and not have taken so many chemicals at such a young age, right? Because some of them, like, you know, they're really hard to kick.
I agree.
Right? So
I hope that there's someone out there listening to this that, you know, maybe is a young
And I hope this didn't turn into a fucking PSA.
No,
Because
not
that's
at
not
all.
what we're here for. We're not here
No.
to tell you what to do. We're just here to tell you our fucking experiences and the shit that we did wrong and the shit that we did right.
Because we know that, because we've gone the path of the kid in Surrey, the brown kid in Surrey, and we know that path. Not know that path. We know some of the things that show up on that path. And we've had interactions and so forth. And the whole point of this podcast is to air out some of those things and talk about them out in the open, because it's never talked about out in the open. When you're doing your research, as every young kid says, hey, I've done my research, I'm going to do them. Well, guess what? You're just getting confirmation bias. You're reading all the things that you want to read, and you're not reading the stuff that is telling you that it's not good for you. Because we went down that path of, you know, you'd ask me, I'd say, oh, I know it's fine. Because for the very long time, I was pro for this stuff as well. I thought it was completely fine. And I wrote a paper first year kinesiology talking about how they should legalize it for baseball and everything. And because my angle on that was that there was just so much of it going down behind closed doors that it made it unfair for all the other athletes. And that if everybody was just on the same thing, then hey, man, it didn't matter. But now I think my views are quite different. Funny what happens with age.
Fuck, man.
I think that's a good conclusion there.
That's it. Getting old, running more. My man.
You're too far away. Now that we've changed up our recording location, we decided that it was time to get ourselves some proper, respectable podcasting chairs. At our previous location, we had a couple of incidents where either your back or my back was absolutely
I remember when we did
wrecked.
the convict podcast, I was turned like this, and my back was fucked for 2 weeks.
Yeah. And I think when we did the Michael one, I was doing the same thing. I was turned and I had like crazy pain. So when we came back here, I was like, we got to get some proper chairs. So we reached out to BC Sofa Design, and he hit us up with a sponsorship. So our first ever sponsorship.
Shout out BC Sofa Design, Sofa Joe.
And we got these custom made chairs, got the triangles like you showed. And with our backs, we realized that extra firm foam is what works for us. Yeah. So we decided specifically to get that, and we were able to choose because we're not going to a furniture store. We go straight to the factory and pick the specifications. How are you finding the chair so far?
This chair is amazing. I'm actually, I was a customer of theirs before they were a sponsor of ours. And so when I first started looking at what kind of sofas we wanted in my new place for me and my wife, started going to the big box places and stuff like that. And we realized nothing really is going to fit and maximize all of the space in our living room. So we thought, fuck, let's just get custom. So we hit up Sofa Joe. First of all, Sofa Joe comes in, measures everything out to maximize every single inch of the place, and then make sure he makes a sofa that's custom designed for that room. And we got to choose through a bunch of different types of firmness, try it out at his showroom, and he's had a quick turnaround time. And these sofas, we get compliments on them all the time.
They are very
Actually, after we've gotten them, you've gotten them. My friend Rav's gotten sofas from them, because once you sit on them, honestly, you got to go see them, because we can talk until the cows come home, and I know they're a sponsor of ours. When you actually go sit in them and see how they're made and the quality craftsmanship that goes into this stuff, it's fucking nuts. Like right when I went in there the first day, he's like, if a sofa salesman is not willing to He lifted up his sofa over his head and just let it go. And it
just
dropped to the ground and nothing happened to it. He's like, if they're not willing to do that, walk out of that shop. So I challenge you to go to his place, get him to do that test with you. And if you love him, get him.
I agree, man.
He's given our listeners a little bit of a discount.
Yeah, that's right. Mention this podcast and you get free delivery. We also got sofas from him as well. And I like you talked about, I like the fact how he just comes and measures the area for you. It says, how do you want it?
Yeah.
You can make it exactly how you want it. We could do anything. We could do it like this. We could do it like that. And I absolutely love that about him. So please do check out BC Sofa Design. They are on Instagram as West Coast Sofa.
Perfect. And then let's get out their phone number, West Coast Sofa. So we got their phone number. They're located on 12886 Anvil Way in Surrey, BC. Homie doesn't like posting his information on there, so let's see, West Coast Sofa.
You know what we'll do? We'll add it onto our show notes as well.
Yep.
So that way you can contact them.
All right, perfect. So that's that. And reach out to the homies. Let them know that we sent you. Get that discount. Get yourself some world-class sofas and stop being embarrassed of your living room.
Because if you're gonna be having these parties in the winter, you got people coming over. You don't want those fisehoy sofa. You get sucked right in. Someone's back's gonna get thrown out, and they're gonna talk about you and hate you for the rest of your life. Come on, you don't want that.
We got enough problems already. Don't let sofas be one of them.